Giant isopod. People who hate insects won't be able to hide from these multi-legged monsters, even underwater. This creature is a giant isopod. It looks a lot like wood lice, those insects found in bathrooms in wet places. At the same time, it's enormous, almost the size of a human head. This animal lives at a depth of 3,000 to 8,000 meters. Isopods are scavengers, so they usually feed on dead fish and crustaceans. Occasionally, they can even add whale and alligators to their diet, but isopods are also known for their ability to live without food for long periods of time. They can survive for months without eating. In Japan, for example, there was an isopod who survived a 5-year hunger strike. Some compare these unusual ocean dwellers to the alien of the famous sci-fi movie, who tracked down and killed the whole crew of a spaceship. By the way, the incredible size of these isopods, which can sometimes reach more than 50 centimeters in length, is explained by an unusual phenomenon called deep-sea gigantism. However, scientists still don't know exactly what produces this phenomenon. Lack of nutrient resources, low temperatures, and highly hydrostatic pressures are among the most likely factors. Narwhals. If someone says unicorns don't exist, don't believe them, because they do, just not underground, but underwater. These mammals live in the cold Arctic waters and have impressive horns, similar to those of the mythical fairy tale creatures. This unusual part of their body is associated with an interesting legend. Among the indigenous peoples of the Arctic, there's a belief that the narwhal acquired its horn after a woman stabbed it with a harpoon. The narwhal dived deep into the ocean and dragged the woman along. Her weapon was tied to her waist with a rope. When she reached the depths of the sea, she herself became a sea beast, and her weapon, the horn of the narwhal. People believe that the horn had magical properties too, so they exterminated these mammals at incredible rates. But in terms of biology, the explanation is much simpler. Scientists believe that the narwhal's horn is a front tooth, which over centuries of evolution became a spiral tusk. Narwhals hardly use their horn to defend themselves from enemies, but they do use it for jewels sometimes. That's how they define the strongest males in the group. However, there are also alternative theories on this subject. For example, researcher Martin Nguyen suggests that narwhal tusks actually have a large number of nerve endings and are used to analyze water temperature and environmental characteristics, and the males supposedly fight each other to get rid of the things stuck on their horns. By the way, narwhals are one of the rarest Arctic animals today. This species is threatened not only by poaching, but also by climate change and pollution. Panda ants. If insects scare you, this one might change your mind. It's often believed to be a strange ant with an incredible resemblance to the most beautiful animal in the universe, the panda bear. But it's actually a wasp. However, due to the similarity with these two creatures, the insect is known as the panda ant. Although discovered by biologists less than a century ago, panda ants are a very old species. Their ancestors' fossils were found by scientists in amber formed a dozen million years ago. By the way, this unusual wasp lives mainly in Latin America and the United States, but the beautiful appearance of the panda ant is misleading. In fact, they are much more cruel than the harmless panda bears. These insects attack with poisonous toxins that can kill a cow after a couple of bites. That's why in Latin American companies, panda ants are also known as cow killers. For a person, the bite of this insect is not pleasant at all. It won't lead to death, but the painful sensations will last for hours. The blue-footed booby. You're probably wondering if these birds accidentally landed in a bucket of blue paint. Well, of course not. The color of their unusual and cute socks is caused by a special pigment, carotenoid. This substance comes from marine fish. Blue-footed boobies live in the Galapagos Islands, and the brightness of the color of their feet indicates the age and state of health of the bird. Therefore, if deprived of food for a few days, the socks quickly lose their bright blue color. But the color of their feet is not only of aesthetic value to these birds. During the mating period, it is this color that attracts the female. The brighter the color, the more likely it is to attract the lady's attention. In addition, the male performs a special mating dance by raising its legs.
Blue coloration. Yes, they make just for life.
If the bird of the opposite sex accepts their courtship, they dance together. Romantic, isn't it? snakes with legs. They say that those born to crawl will never fly. Well, that may be true, but what about walking? For example, scientists at Yale University have recently discovered that the snake's ancestors, who inhabited the Earth more than 100 million years ago, had limbs with ankles and fingers. But it turns out that some of these reptiles are still with us. At first glance, this creature can be mistaken for an ordinary snake. Just look at it crawl. But if you look closer, you can see little legs on its body. What is it then? A tiny dragon? A weird lizard? A new species of salamander? So far, neither scientists nor internet users have reached a consensus on this issue. One thing is for sure though, it doesn't look very pleasant. As for this wonder, it certainly doesn't belong to the snake family, although it does seem like one. This video shows a skink, a very rare reptile that lives in Africa. Fortunately, this creature is completely harmless to humans.